All right, so I'm here with some people that I thought it would be really fun to get together to interview. So we've got some tropical fruit experts here. To my mind, are some of the most important fruit experts in the world, to me, in my opinion. So this is Paul Noren and Roy Danforth, who have worked in Congo, Central African Republic, and Cameroon. And Dwight Carter, who's spent his career in fruit working in Guatemala. And I had the chance to go stay at Dwight's farm in Guatemala and learn quite a lot. Haven't gotten to visit these guys yet, but we certainly spent a lot of time talking about fruit. And what's that?
We'll work on it.
Yeah, right. All three of these guys also have done quite a lot of work with other types of agroforestry, even livestock, forestry trees, bamboo, all kinds of other interesting work. So I thought it would be fun to get these guys together. I don't think they knew each other before this event. And just dialogue. They're in a very similar climate, with these guys being in a rainforest area of Central Africa and Dwight being in a kind of a rainforest area of Guatemala. So have some good dialogue, hopefully, and learn from these people who spent a lot of years doing this. So maybe if you all just want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about your work, start like that.
Okay, I'm Paul Noren, and I was born and raised in northwest Congo. Went to school there, and then came back and did university, but only for 2 years at a time. So I haven't been away from Congo very much. Anyway, I was working with fish culture and then reforestation and fruit trees. Fruit trees became a pretty big quest kind of thing that we've had a lot of fun with. And over the years, we've had opportunity to do lots of different kinds of experiences, trials of different kinds, and looking through the woods to try to find what's available and what could be useful. So that's kind of where we are. Agroforestry is currently one of my specialties.
I'm Dwight Carter. I grew up in Minnesota, and my dad liked to be diversified, so we raised had a dairy, fruits and vegetables, and basically anything but tropical fruit. And then I got to Guatemala, supposed to work with dairy and animal. I did for several years. But when I discovered, I was just telling these guys that when I went to the botanical garden, Lancetia in Tela, Honduras, and my eyes were open to the world of tropical fruit, and it was like, gotta do it. I was just struck by just all the wonderful fruit that people just didn't know. It's so good, so wonderful, and people just didn't know about it. So I just thought, well, let's do it. Let's grow it. And so, yeah, right now I have a nursery and sell plants from a lot of different kinds of fruit.
All right, my name is Roy Danforth, and I grew up in Los Angeles, and I ate canned fruit. So I was not interested in fruit at all until I arrived in Congo in 1978, and that's when I met Paul. And we began our careers together in Congo in basically 1980 after I finished my agriculture degree in tropical agronomy. And when I arrived, I was supposed to take care of milk goats and paddy rice when I arrived. And both of those failed within a few weeks. And so I was wondering what I needed to do in order to work with the small farmers and help them with proper nutrition and even hunger situations as well. And so beans was my first introduction, you might say, in helping people with various kinds of beans, but cowpeas was the best. And then Paul said, Roy, we really need to work with fruit trees. And I said, no, we don't. And he gave me samples of things that are trees that were in existence there. And as soon as I started tasting them, then my eyes got wide. And so that started the whole thing of not only seeing what Congo and that rainforest had to offer as far as fruits, but then we began to get connected with rare food councils in Miami, in California, And then we met these people that went all over the world, and then we traveled together and visited many of the places that they had gone. And we basically ended up with over 500 species of different kinds of fruit trees to introduce into an agroforestry type farming system that was more permanent. So I'm actually retired right now, and I live back in the United States in Plymouth, Indiana, but I still correspond with Paul and the different projects that I worked on in Africa.
So all three of you have worked in the developing world, which is, prevalence of poverty and malnutrition and a lot of other problems. So I'm curious to hear why you have all chosen perennial fruit crops as a big focus in that specific context. Like, why is that a good fit versus a lot of institutions focus on raising the corn yield or raising the rice yield or things like that. What is it about these perennial fruits that, make it chose to be your focus?
Well, besides being fun, there's one of my, I was interested in these things from back when I was a kid, and we had breadfruit, and you can live nonstop basically on breadfruit with a few other things, but I mean, and so there's food coming off a tree, and avocados, and then safu, which was first time I saw the safu, that's a Dacroides edulis. It's a purple, beautiful fruit about this big. They can be like that, and then some are, and we have one that's like the world's smallest. It's like this. You can eat 100 of those. But anyway, it's an oily fruit that you have to cook, or in hot water. Anyway, you put it in hot water, and then it softens up, and you can eat it. But first time I tasted one of those, I thought, why would someone waste their time or the space in their yard with something like this? It's really beautiful, but it's no good to eat. But I got used to it down in Bumba there along the Congo River, where there was quite a few of them there, and they're wild up in the forest up in the Ubangi. But down along the Congo River, people had quite a few different cultivars of them, and I got used to them there, and I thought, no, this is food. It's not just fruit; it's food, and the people see it as food, and so. So we looked into getting better varieties of those too. But there's other things, the bread nut and then the jackfruit. And we had the old variety jackfruit, but the seeds of those you can roast. And so I just saw fruit trees as being a way to produce good eating. Some of it's just good fun to eat. It's enjoyable. It makes life more interesting. But and I climbed trees a lot, so that was good exercise. But I just thought that fruit were, and the perennial crops, like trees will grow in places that sometimes corn will not. And so you get those in the ground, and in that kind of a climate, the trees are just productive. We get a jackfruit with 300 fruit on it. There's like almost 3 tons of fruit if they're at 10 kilos apiece. That's an incredible amount of food off of one tree. And jackfruit, breadfruit in the Karawa area there, where we were.
So with me, like I said, I didn't really have a whole lot to do if those first 2 projects failed. So my first term, which is only a year there, I just said, well, I'm going to listen and learn and go see where they farm and all of that. And what I observed was, one, they like to farm and cut down the rainforest and do the typical slash and burn agriculture, but they were running out of rainforest. So that was a critical issue with them to find good soil. So they're being forced onto the grassland, and the grassland in our area at that time was pretty much what they call the sword grass. And that one, if you walk through in your shorts, you'll get cut up severely on your legs. And yeah, it's not fun. So the soil itself underneath that is all your hard clay lateritic soil, and it's very difficult to get good yields out of that. So they didn't have much alternatives. And so the idea of a more permanent system of agriculture, which included fruit trees, that became our focus. And once we saw what they were growing, the corn, the peanuts, the cassava or manioc, then we knew the value of fruit trees, tropical fruit trees, and we said, let's incorporate those into their gardens. And so it was more of a permanent type situation where as the fruit trees were growing, then the annual crops that they were raising would produce, and then eventually trees got big enough, and then they started fruiting, and then they didn't do annual crops underneath anymore, so they moved to new land. So bad land was being developed. Even old rainforests were also being developed with these trees, and it became more of a permanent situation.
Yeah, I was seeing forests being destroyed in two ways. One is for cattle, a large scale, and the other way was a moving from a highlands traditional Mayan milpa system that might have been adaptable might have fit the vocation of that area. That with migration, population pressure, people were moving down into areas that were made for permanent tree cover. It's like their design, the soil, the amount of rain, you needed permanent tree cover. And so if you want to live with permanent tree cover, you want trees that produce food. So it's like that was one motivation. The other one is economic, whatever, all this effort to live off the forest. There's efforts to like glean from the forest. Well, and we always kid around in Minnesota about living off the fat of the land. Well, you ever read the history of Lewis and Clark? You're like starving to death. Well, so like what kind of cultivation can help you produce fat on the land in that climate? And we started with rambutan as an economic, just like a cash crop, and we put it where it shouldn't have been. Didn't have the right drainage and stuff, and so we started planting at the same time just everything else we could find to see what had economic potential for the people.
So these guys have the same kind of problem I have. They can't stop collecting new plants. So there's large collections of fruit and other types of edible plants at both of these. Well, they have several sites in Central Africa. He's got a great site in Guatemala. But I'm curious to hear of this wide diversity of stuff you've collected. What are, maybe 5 or something, some of the most high impact species, either from a nutritional perspective for local people, or especially things people have taken and started planting on their own because they're so good, or even, this might be more for you, things that have taken off from an economic perspective that are helping people with fruit trees.
I'll start because I know Paul will finish well.
Okay.
Yeah. The whole idea of agroforestry means diversity, and so to name the top 5 for me would be really difficult.
Sure.
But the idea of searching the world like we did, going to different places and collecting all these seeds and trees and information from people, all of that, it took us literally decades in order to figure all this out. And finally you plant it and you get it going in Africa, and with that culture and that people, what is the most accepted and what can grow the best in that area. So our dream or our vision for Central Africa was to be able to plant 1 hectare or 2 hectares of all the best of those kinds of varieties that provide the best food, the best yield, and all those statistics to supply to the people so that they can be self-sufficient and that sort of thing. So I'll let Paul go with that.
Yeah, it was, the top 5, I have a hard time with that too, but
your top 5, just really good ones, things that have been good.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, mangosteens, they're worth nothing nutritionally, I don't think, but they're really good. It's like the best fruit in the world. And I ate 200 one day, and all it did was make me pee a lot. But anyway, there's and durian. You know, that was on my bucket list from a long time ago. Durian, and I really like it. You need a lot of durian, and it's food. Durian is food. And then there's these other things I mentioned, but I mean, I enjoy just about any kind of fruit. But and if I go to some of the things that we found out and kind of targeted as this is worth doing, the pejabai was one of those, and good food out of that thing.
For other people watching, also peach palm.
Yeah, called peach palm too. Yeah, although there's nothing like peaches. It's just they're kind of colored like. Some of them are colored like peaches, but they don't have fuzz on them. And they're different sizes. We have one that's the size of almost like the size of an apple, and then and it's red and smooth and nice. And then we have others that have like little lines in them and stuff, and others that are smaller. But they're really good. You cook those, and it's a staple food. I mean, and so we're targeting those things. But I enjoy eating all these other, I mean, rambutans, man. The only problem with rambutans is that they ripen the same time mangosteens do. And so if mangosteens are ripe, people don't want to buy rambutans. But after you've eaten, 500 mangosteens, then, rambutans are pretty good too. So. And so we worked at all those. We got like 14 different kinds of rambutans growing and it looked like they weren't even going to work. And then all of a sudden, they are growing. 20 years later, we got really pretty nice orchard of rambutans there.
Okay, I will just interject here. As far as like the Africans, after we introduced all of these things, if we got somebody that wanted to purchase seedlings in the nursery, what they would go for is number one, I think, is coconut.
Yeah.
And we had coconuts already there, but we were trying to propagate them as best as possible.
Well, there were very few in our area.
Yeah, there are a few.
You had to go to a Catholic mission or something to find a coconut.
Yeah. And so then another one was oil palm, and oil palm is actually a good fruit.
Yeah, and it's native.
And it's native, but we introduced new varieties, and they would want those right away as well, the improved varieties. Another one might be...
we didn't introduce the new varieties. They were there and being used in the plantations, but what we did is we went and got them and started to distribute them among the normal people.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal. Yeah.
They would always ask for citrus, and citrus was always there too, but we know that if you plant a seed, it's going to take 7-10 years before a citrus tree will grow. But we had so many of the diseases in that area, and that one that just attacks the tree and in 1 year turns it dead.
It was tristeza.
Yeah, tristeza. That was horrible in our area, so we really didn't have much success with that. But avocado is another really good one, and that's probably in my top 5 would be avocado. And in Cameroon, across the border from where we worked, we could get all different varieties. And one of my goals was to,
all year long too.
All year long was to get one variety in every month of the year you had production. And in Cameroon, at the marketplaces, you could find those. But it's places like that, like the marketplaces in different countries, or even in Cameroon, those are places we beeline to, and we try to get the best varieties and different varieties of different kinds of fruit.
Boy. 5 best. I was going to say something else, but avocados are native to Central America and Guatemala. And when people ask me what is the most important fruit in Guatemala, I say hands down avocado. But that's for the local ones, and I really am partial to mamey zapotes. I'll have great. And the thing about it is all the good avocados have been developed somewhere else, and most of the good mamey zapotes have been developed somewhere else. And Danny's not here, but something that Danny I've heard say several times is there's genetics. If you get the right clone, like you talk about bringing in the best material, in a way it's not so much the best species, But if you can get the right material of the right fruit for the right area, because we're not going to plant Haas where we live.
No.
We don't even want to think about Haas. We want real avocados like from right there, and so that's one. And another thing is, like, I really like the criterion of what people want, and like right now, the project we work with, we let people pick which fruit tree they want to plant, and they want to plant rambutan so bad that we have to limit the number that they can take. And my partner gave a talk about how we're not trying to be paternalistic, but in that case, we think that we can see marketing problems down the road that the people don't realize. Like you say, like all of a sudden there's just too much. It's so prolific compared to the easy. There's just too much. And so we have a sort of saying, well, rambutan is the past, mangosteen is the present, durian is the future. That's kind of like, okay, people are planting mangosteen like mad. We're going to saturate that market. It's going to take us a while to get all the wonderful variety of durian adapted to each area. And I think that all of us, it's not like we're working so much with what's right now. I know Josh, we're all of us, we're looking way down there. We're looking, it's fruit trees after all. Yeah. We're looking at, to me, the most important thing is to inspire people like Josh here and everywhere, to people that aren't as gray-haired as we are, to get the vision, to think way down. Like it's not short term. It's cowpeas. Like somebody has to do that.
Yeah.
But we're the long. And Jason, he tries to do everything. But we're the focus on fruit long term. And I had a friend that we were talking. His dream is to have like a little durian tasting place in Costa Rica, something like they have in Malaysia. He says, well, it's going to take us a couple generations, and he has a son that's into it. We'll see if his grandchildren are into it. But it's long, and I see my role right now is inspiring. I mean, somebody's got to keep doing it. And the way the way you're excited about it, it gets people excited.
Yeah, but I like what you said too about the, mangosteens is the rambutans are the past already.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of what's happened in our part of Congo, the north part. When we first got there, we couldn't even get a rambutan.
Yeah.
It was like really hard to find one. Yeah. And mangosteens, we're you had to go down to Bongobo and get them from that one tree or something, or there was one tree there, and so we took care of that problem really by flooding the area with. So right now, mangosteens haven't flooded the area, but there's a lot of them there, and rambutans, you can buy them on every season now. There's rambutans available. Walking up and down the street in Gemina, and even in Karawa. And sometimes I look at the fruit and I go, I think I know where that tree is. That looks like one from our Kanana farm. How'd that get here to the market? Okay. But then I sometimes I do research. No, they have that one over at this place. But anyway, so rambutans are now fairly common during their season. Mangosteens are fairly common during their season, still a big favorite. And durians are still the future. People really like durians, but they take a much longer time. And there's only a few durian trees that I know of in our area that I actually haven't handled the seeds or the nursery still, a little bit. And the few that I do know that I haven't had anything to do with really, in one way I did. It's like Pastor Beat, they went with us out to Kanana and he got a bunch of durian seedlings and took them home. And there's a few like that. So anyway, yeah, they're still getting them from our trees, right? And Safu, the Dacryoides, that was called Bilingombe in our place. The Ngombe is a group of, it's a Bantu tribe, a little bit to the south. And so the Mbaka's name for it was the Ngombe fruit.
That's what they eat.
That's what they eat. But, not here. Well, now everyone's eating the Safu. And I think largely because of our efforts those have become common, and
Are they around here?
they're
Too tropical.
yeah. Well,
So-
yeah, they might. Yeah, I think they grow down in Bal Harbor, Bill Whitman's place. Where
Yeah.
they would have done that back, maybe Key West and stuff.
But I think we could also say too that jackfruit is really important. And at one point you said there's 10 jackfruit trees in every yard, and maybe there's only one mango tree, so it kind of took over the mango because it provides so much food and so much variety of nutrition as well.
Yeah.
And they love it, and that is probably the number one in their eyes that we've introduced into the area.
Well, and then the other thing too, I think even coconuts. We spread coconuts around quite a bit. We were in truckload of coconuts. You know, well, that's only about 500 of them, but we planted those out and we gave those out to people in the villages, and now, and I mean, it's not completely us, but because people really wanted them. But between Gemin, it's 50 miles between Gemin and Karawa, and way back, yeah, you might see one or two coconut trees around Bominengi, about a third of the way, and then after that, pretty much nothing. Now, I've counted as I'm driving along. Okay, so I have a guy that's driving me actually, right? So I can actually pay attention to what's growing. And there's something like 3,600 coconut trees on the road between those two towns. So that's really, I mean, that's hectares. That's many hectares worth of coconuts that are growing there, and quite a few varieties of them now. But so we did. So like a food garden, we looked at it was avocados, 10 avocados of 3 types. Okay, 10 jackfruit trees, and you'll have jackfruit all season, all year long. 2 bread nuts, that's plenty. They're big, and they have more than one crop a year. And jackfruit is just like, okay. Anyway, and then oil palm, 1 or 2 oil palms, because that's actually a good source of oil and calories. And then of course pejabai. So you get those are like 10 of those, okay, of different kinds. Well, you do that, and you really, and safu, put the safu in there. These are food things. But you look at what people really, what's really gone viral kind of in the villages. The first thing is jackfruit. And strangely enough, the second is the, from what I count, is the Rollinia. Rolinias, they're just all over the place.
I don't blame them.
Yeah. And we got a variety of Rollinia that gets to be a pretty good sized tree, and man, you can buy those along the road now. Great big Rollinias like that. You get them when they're just ripe and just right. You don't want them to be too ripe.
In Central African Republic, then the Bunchosia is also very popular because from seedling, in 1 year it starts fruiting.
Kids eat it.
Kids love it. They pick it. We've got a lot of our photos have kids next to it, and they're enjoying it.
Yeah, I thought that would happen where it's like there's cultural difference. I thought that would happen where I am. Just like doesn't go, but the umbrella, the dwarf umbrellas.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I was going to ask you about that. So, when I went to Dwight's, I saw all this, what we call here dwarf umbrella. What do you call it? Cotemico. Spondius dulcis. It's this dwarf June plum. And if you had laid out to me a list of all the tropical fruits that would have an impact in Guatemala, I would not have thought that this one, it's to me not a wonderful, delicious fruit. But it has taken off in your area. So I'm curious to hear, why does this oddball fruit take off there? And then from you guys, is there something that we would have just looked right over that, it was worth bringing in all this diversity because this one oddball took off? So.
Well, I'll tell you, you guys will appreciate the story. I visited Frank Sakita.
Yeah.
And I was getting rambutan varieties and seed.
You can tell you a story about it.
Well, okay, anyway, I was leaving. I was all packed up, and I was leaving, and I'd seen that he had a dwarf umbrella in a pot, but I'd also noticed, and I didn't have it, but we have the big ones, and I saw those things, but I also the main thing I noticed is that there was just fruit going to waste there. And I didn't know that fruit well. And I just thought, well, I'm full. I got all kinds of stuff I know I need. And why should I bother with that? He said, are you sure you don't want to take some of these? And I was buying from him. And he needed, got to do business.
Yeah, he needed income.
Yeah, he needed income. And so, but he said, well, just take 3. He gave me 3. I planted those 3, and when they started to bear, I had to put a guard on those trees. If I want to see, when people would come to the farm, I had a guy there with a machete looking at them.
Yeah.
Because the kids would just eat every one, and then if they could get it ripe, when the parents were going to steal them to plant. And so for many years, I did not allow anybody to take one single fruit from that tree because I needed all the seed I could get. And now I've got neighbors. I don't even raise them anymore. For my nurse, I sell several thousand a year, and I just buy them seedlings from my neighbors. Yeah. And it's just like, if you go around where every single bag, but none of them get ripe. The kids are. And I think maybe there's part of it. They need them in there. So it's something that we don't know that the kids need in their diet because they eat them green and sour, and sometimes they put salt on them so they don't bother, but they just starve them.
Well, I thought it was a good object lesson to just when we're collecting things at these types of places, you don't know which ones are going to make an impact until you have the diversity to choose from. Yeah. And I remember walking through the neighborhood there, and there's a guy in his yard, and it's all these sacks of those Jocotemico trees. Yeah. And I would have never thought that would have been a significant fruit. So
it's the market.
It just shows the value of collections, and things might catch on that we can't foresee. They're going to.
Oh, it's like a Bunchosi was talking about. I mean, even in our part of Congo, I didn't think Bunchosi would become anything fantastic, but they're in every village, and birds are even spreading them around. They're not becoming like invasive or anything like that, but I mean, you see one here and one there, and
I traded Nancy to Frankie. I'm afraid they're going to become invasive in Hawaii.
Yeah,
you know that. It's Hector-Nancy. Is it close? No, that's Bersonino crassifolia. It's like, Hawaiians are really paranoid about invasive species.
Yeah.
Bersonino crassifolia.
Yeah.
I know the name.
It's a yellow native.
Smells like rotten socks if you're not used to it when it's ripe.
Okay.
Not the milk tree. Do they call it milk?
No, not that one.
So I'm curious to hear what has been the role of Florida in you guys collecting efforts, because you guys have all collected things from all around the world, and probably a lot of people watching this will be from Florida. So I'm curious to hear if there have been mentors or places that you've collected things in the state of Florida that have helped people in other, around the world.
Yeah. We could name some names here, but Bill Whitman and Adolf Grimmel, and Gene Joyner, and
Larry Shockman.
Yeah.
Fruit and Spice Park.
Yeah.
Homestead area was a target for me when I came to Florida, but the drawing card was Echo, and they had a good nursery and they had good varieties, and I connected with them. But as soon as we connected with the Rare Fruit Council, International Rare Fruit Council, then all the different chapters invited us to speak and show slides, and we connected with those members. They wanted us to see their yards, and we collected seeds from there. And then they told us, you got to go to Borneo, you got to go to Australia. And Alan Carl in Australia is a huge name.
Yeah.
And we exchanged a lot of seed with him.
Well, and Kraft and Cliff introduced us to a lot of people in this area.
Yeah.
And like the Fruit and Spice Park, man. This is terrible. I'm having a senior moment where
Chris.
people's names.
Chris.
Yeah.
Chris what?
Yeah.
The fruit and
Chris.
The fruit.
Yeah.
Chris,
if you listen to this, we're sorry. Yeah. Rollins? Yeah. There you go. Last time I was there, we had dinner with him. Anyway.
It's the whole idea. It's the whole attitude that South Florida. I think it's climate envy. All these southern Florida, they wish.
Yeah.
They wish they could be in the South Florida was the tropics and actually had soil.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to leave South Florida, so
Yeah.
they leave and could bring. try to make it grow here. And so that whole attitude is, and also just the inquisitive travel and willing to share that. South Florida is special for that. Yeah, really great.
So I'm curious if you had a word of advice for people that want to do this kind of work, whether it's, you know, a lot of people watching this are live here, and I think this kind of work's important everywhere, even here in the developed world. But you know, what's a piece of advice for, you know, collecting, how to, you know, get people excited about these things, just kind of to get this going? What kind of advice do you have?
Well, you need to find out who's got what, and you need to pay attention to who's really interested in stuff. And so we were directed to Gary Zill's, and they had mangoes, and they were doing Harmondine was doing the breeding on anonas and doing it. So we got a lot of those different kinds of things going there too. And we ended up with, okay, so out of 500 species, mango is one species, but we had 30 plus varieties of them. Okay, and there's a lot of differences in those. And you've got a good set of mangoes going now, and some really nice ones too. And then other than guava, man, we had quite a few varieties of guava. Yeah, so.
Well, I think the key is connecting with people, right?
Yeah.
Like
so
in this area, that's what
you find out from people. Yeah.
And you got to know the crop. You got to know what you're looking for, and we tell them we want the best of the best.
Well, sometimes you don't even know what you're looking for, but
yeah.
But you just got to find out when you see it.
We got sapodillas from who? Not, you know, it was exotic.
Silas Wood.
No.
Yeah.
No. That was another site that we would visit all the time and get exotic fruit trees from him at his nursery.
Richard Wilson.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Richard Wilson.
And what was his thing called?
Excalibur.
Yeah,
Excalibur.
We got a lot of stuff from him. Yeah.
Yeah, we got to give him credit too.
Yeah.
So
He's passed away, by the way.
he did.
Yeah.
Okay, but he was very generous. He'd say, "Take this one," and we'd say, "Yeah, we want the best of the best, and we can only take a few things with us in our luggage." So, yeah.
How about you?
I think that there's sort of a spirit like the fruit people.
Yeah.
That there's a few rare ones that don't want to share.
Yeah.
And so don't waste your time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the greatest majority are just so flattered once you get the bug. We were just talking about like sometimes they'll test you.
Yeah.
We were just telling about these guys. I had the great privilege to meet Roberto Coronel in Manila, Philippines.
Who we also got stuff from.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like he wrote he
book.
wrote that book.
Yeah.
Next to Julia Morton, he was like one of our
References.
Yeah.
really important reference and Promising Fruit of the Philippines is his book. And so I never dreamed that I was going to meet him, but some friends of his said, "You got to meet him." But the thing is, they knew me, and they knew him, but he tested me. So I got to his farm, and he said, "You know, I have this plant here, and I somebody gave it to me. You know what that is?" And I said, "Well, it looks like a chicharrón." And I walked over another one, and he said, "What about that?" And I said, "Well, isn't that a something?" And I'm like, "Doesn't he know what that is?" And after about 3, I said, "Okay, you're in." After that, I was like, "Share everything." So it's sort of like it's like this little. All these names, a lot of the names these guys are mentioning are people that I'd always dreamed of visiting, but I never made it. I got to know some of those people.
Yeah.
Well, I told them the funny one when the first time I called up Bill Whitman because we were on the way by that direction and we'd heard about him. I thought I got to meet this guy, you know. So I called him up and he said, I said, "Yeah, I'm from Africa." He said, "From Africa?" "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, and I work with fruit." He says, "Okay." He says, "Stop by." He says, "There's Africa. We're not getting anything out of Africa." And he said something like that. And, and then, so we get there, and it's a gated community and all this, and I drive up in my, sort of beater of a car, and feel like I'm not supposed to really be in that community. Anyhow, he opens the door, and I see him, and the first thing I smell is jackfruit. And I say, jackfruit. I don't think I said hello to him. I said, jackfruit. And he goes, oh, you smell that? Hey, come on in. And it was in the door. After that, we became good friends, and he helped us a lot with getting different things, and we sent a lot of stuff to him. So, and then he knew other people, and he knew a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think we got to wrap up here. We're all got to head off to a dinner soon.
yep.
But
But wait, I got something to say.
go ahead. Yeah.
People need to know this guy, Josh Jamison, right here. He's the up and coming person who is going to know
There's the
fruit.
There's
And he's
the
a good
past,
guy too.
There's the now.
Yeah.
And then we gotta look for the future. Folks.
Yeah.
We got find more young people like this guy. Let's get going. There's a ton. There's too much. We just got little starts going.
Yeah.
Things are just,
Tidbits.
yeah. Got to do it.
And while we're doing this, there's people standing here watching that are Ralph.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there's people out there that are coming up,
So,
and
yeah, go for it.
yeah,
Well, I want to thank
and
you
there's
guys.
still more to do.
I want to thank you guys, and I just want to say, I have a tremendous amount of respect for anybody that dedicates their life to helping other people, which to me is what all three of you have done in your own unique ways. You guys have done it as missionaries. Dwight's done it as a business. But at the end of the day, I think all of your work has been about trying to make the world a better place. And with trees, it's a better place, not just for now, but for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And it means a lot to me. I hope we can continue to dialogue, and we're inspired. And I was very moved to hear you guys speak. To know, what you could accomplish in one lifetime can help so many people in the future. If rather than taking an easy path, you do something that's meaningful instead. And I think that's what the three of you have done. So thanks for taking the time, and hope everybody enjoyed this.
Okay, bye. Push the button. Stop it. Stop.